Up to now, the stories I've shared with you were born from ancient pacts, from whispered legends and fears hidden in the folds of folklore. These were secrets guarded by communities, by families, by traditions. But there's another kind of secret, a more modern, colder, and perhaps more relentless type, the corporate secret. Large industries, in their incessant search for resources, dig deeper than any explorer, map territories no government knows, and sometimes they find things that weren't on geological maps, anomalies that defy science and common sense. And when that happens, the protocol isn't superstition or prayer. It's a confidentiality agreement, a mass dismissal, a fabricated bankruptcy, silence bought with money and fear. When I last spoke to you, I was in the comfort of my apartment, with a map in front of me and a decision to make. Today, I no longer speak from an office. I speak from a guest house in Llangollen, Denbighshire, in the heart of Wales. I came. I followed the call. In recent weeks, I studied every note of my grandfather, hired a guide, and plunged into the immensity of the Brecon Beacons. I came seeking answers to the death of a man I never knew, but whose blood, and perhaps whose curse, I carry. The story I tell today is not a memory. It's a logbook recorded every night of this expedition. It's the real-time account of my descent into the same labyrinth that swallowed my grandfather almost 50 years ago. Good evening or good morning. I am the Enigma, and this is the conclusion of our quest. The final destination is a ghost town called Llanfair, and the objective is to discover what really happened in the secret chamber beneath its church. Will I find proof of a murder motivated by greed? Or will I find proof that the guardian my grandfather spoke of is real? And which of the two options is the most frightening? Thank you for joining me in this final stage. The journey so far has been solitary, but knowing you are listening gives me strength to take the last steps. And before we enter the Forbidden Valley, if you were with us in part 1 and are eager for the conclusion, leave your like so I know you crossed the trail with me. And if you just arrived, subscribe to the Enigma channel and hit the bell, because today we're going all the way. Together, let's begin the final walk. The Brecon Beacons are not like the Amazon or the Atlantic forest. It's a landscape of ancient, almost alien beauty. Vast plains of moorland, deep canyons, crystal clear waterfalls, and rock formations that seem to have been sculpted by giants. The energy of the place is undeniable. It's a place that inspires both admiration and a deep respect, almost a dread. My guide is a man named Rhys, a local tracker in his 60s, with leathery skin and eyes that know every secret of this land. He's not a man of many words. When I showed him the map and told him my grandfather's story, he just spat on the ground and said, "There are many stories of people who got lost here looking for conquistadors' gold. Most are legends. But the Beacons don't like noisy people. If we go with respect." He didn't believe in the curse, but he believed in the danger of the wild nature. For him, the guardian was the lynx, the adder, a hidden precipice. I didn't correct him. We set off from the town of Llangollen 3 days ago. The walk is brutal. There are no marked trails where we're going. We follow my grandfather's notes, the topography of the map, and race instinct. We crossed rivers, climbed plateaus from where the view was lost on the horizon, and slept under a sky with more stars than I've ever seen in my life. During the day, Rhys taught me about the plants, the animal tracks. But at night, around the campfire, I listened to my grandfather's tapes again. Listening to his voice here, in the same environment where he recorded it, was a ghostly experience. I felt the same thing. The same feeling that the vast silence of the beacons was, in fact, listening to us. Rhys noticed my apprehension. "It's the solitude, lad," he'd say. "It plays tricks on your mind." But on the third night, something happened that shook even his skepticism. We were camped near a small canyon when we heard a sound. A rhythmic sound of stone hitting stone, coming from deep within the valley. It was a full moon night. We grabbed the binoculars, and down there we saw a figure, distant, solitary, just a silhouette against the rocks, who seemed to be building something. Stacking stones? Hunter? I asked Reese. He shook his head, his eyes fixed on the figure. No hunter stays in open areas like this on a full moon, and no man from around here is mad enough to be chipping stone at night. It scares off the game, and it attracts ... something else. He said nothing more. He just put out the fire and stood guard the rest of the night, his shotgun across his lap. The figure continued its monotonous work until dawn, when it simply disappeared. It didn't leave. It disappeared. On the fourth day of walking, we arrived. My grandfather's map led us to a narrow valley, hidden between two rock faces. And at the bottom of the valley was Landfair. The town was a skeleton being devoured by the moorland. The adobe walls of the houses had melted with decades of rain, creating mounds of mud from which grass grew. The remaining wooden structures were crooked and hollow, and in the center of everything, what was left of the church. Only part of the facade and a bell tower without a bell, like a bony finger pointing to the sky. The silence was absolute. No birds sang, no insects buzzed. It was the same heavy, unnatural silence I felt at Station 5. Reese, a man of the wild, felt it too. He held his shotgun tighter. "Wrong place," he whispered. "Energy of the unblessed dead." We walked through the streets of the dead town. It was easy to imagine life there, centuries ago. The hustle of the miners, the power of Reese the Dark, the brutality and hope that built and destroyed so many places like this in Wales. We went straight to the church. The interior was just a rectangle of stone foundations, with the sky as a roof. The altar area was a pile of rubble, exactly as my grandfather's tape described. The passages under the altar, I told Reese. We started removing the stones. It was heavy work, and beneath them we found it, a large stone slab which was not natural. It had carvings, tool marks, and in one corner, an iron ring. Together, with all our strength, we pulled it. The slab moved with a creak that sounded like a groan from the earth, revealing a dark staircase that descended into the bowels of the world. The smell that rose was of mold, damp earth, and something else. Something metallic. The smell of a long-kept secret. "This is where we find out if your grandfather was a genius or completely mad," Reese said, lighting his torch. And we descended. The staircase ended in a chamber that was partly natural, a cave, and partly constructed. The rock walls had been smoothed, and the floor was of packed earth. The air was cold and thin. Our torches swept the darkness, revealing the frozen scene of a tragedy. In the center of the chamber was the chest, or what remained of it. The rosewood was in pieces, violently splintered, and around it, scattered on the floor, was the treasure. It wasn't like in the movies. It wasn't glittering coins and jewels. It was raw gold nuggets, a dark, almost sickly yellow. And mixed with the gold, there were bones. Small animal bones, and some that looked ... human. And there were clumps of dark hair, and pieces of rotten fabric. Next to the chest, a large dark stain on the floor. Blood, and on it, a geologist's pickaxe and a rusty machete. The crime scene, preserved for almost 50 years. It was exactly as the tape described. My grandfather died here. Here begins what's truly scary. As I stood paralyzed, staring at the site of my grandfather's death, Reese's torch swept the back of the chamber and stopped. Enigma ... single quotes, he said, his voice a thread. "We're not alone." I turned my torch in the same direction, and my heart pounded in a way that almost made me faint. Crouched in the darkest corner of the chamber, there was a man, or what was left of one. He was skin and bone, A long, tangled beard and hair covered his face. He wore rags of what were once explorers' clothes. And he stared at us, his eyes deep in the darkness of his skull, shining with a feverish light. He was motionless, like a statue of suffering. "William?" I whispered, the word escaping before I realized. The figure reacted to the name. He slowly lifted his head, and with a voice that was a rustle of dry leaves, he replied, "He still remembers my name, ... It was William, my grandfather's partner, alive, trapped in that tomb for almost half a century. The shock gave way to a million questions. Reese raised his shotgun, purely by instinct. "Calm down," I said. "He's weak. He's not a threat." I approached slowly. "William, my name is Edward. I am Arthur's grandson." The old man's eyes filled with an emotion I couldn't decipher. Pain? Surprise? Guilt? "Arthur ... single quotes," he whispered. "The stubborn one, the curious one ... Did he send you here?" "He's dead," I replied. "I listened to the tapes. What happened here, William?" And then he began to tell. In broken sentences, interrupted by coughs and long silences, he told us the truth. When they opened the chest, greed consumed them. But it wasn't normal greed. "The gold ... it sings in your head, boy," William said. "It promises everything, but it asks for your soul in return." He told me that the instant they touched the gold, the entity that guarded it, Reese, the dark surd of the land, awoke. But it wasn't a physical monster. It was a psychic parasite. "It enters through your desires," William explained. "Your greed, your fear, your rage. It uses what's inside you to control you." The entity tried to possess them both, and they turned against each other. It wasn't William who attacked Arthur. It was two men, driven mad by the Guardian's influence, fighting for control of their own minds. Arthur, he was stronger, more stubborn, William said. He fought the possession, and the effort. His heart couldn't take it. He fell, dead, not by my hand, but by the hand of the gold. William, in his brief moment of lucidity after his friend's death, felt such deep terror and guilt that it paralyzed him. He tried to leave, but couldn't. Every time I reached the stairs, I heard the voice of the gold calling me back, promising to forgive me if I stayed, if I protected it. I became what I feared most, the new guardian. He survived all these years on water, dripping from the walls and small animals that entered the chamber. Trapped, a hermit in a cell of gold and guilt. As he spoke, I noticed something. My guide, Reese's eyes. He was no longer looking at William. He was looking at the pile of gold, and in his eyes, I saw the same glint William described. A glint of covetousness, of desire. The curse wasn't just in the story. It was there, in the air, active, and it was starting to infect my guide. "Reese," I called him, my voice firm. "Let's go." "But the gold ... single quotes," he said, without taking his eyes off the pile. "We could just take a little. No one would ever know." "Didn't you hear what he said?" I insisted. "This isn't gold. It's an anchor. It's bait. If you touch this, you stay. You stay here forever, like him." I pointed to William. Reese looked at the old man, then at the gold. A visible battle raged on his face. Greed versus fear. For a moment, I thought I'd lose him. But then he looked at me and nodded slowly. "Fear won. And you?" I asked William. "Come with us. It's over. You're free." The old man smiled, a sad, empty smile. "Free? No, my son. My place is here. My punishment is this. Go and seal the entrance. Tell the world there's nothing here. Let the spirit of the land sleep in peace." We didn't argue. We climbed the stairs. And with Reese's help, who now worked with desperate fury, we used the iron bar as a lever and caused a small landslide at the entrance to the staircase, blocking the passage with tons of rock and earth. As Landfair disappeared behind us, I finally understood. My grandfather didn't die because of a monster. He died because of a treasure. And the greatest curse of all is the one we put in our own hearts: obsession. I came to Wales looking for the truth about his death, and I found it. But I also found my own liberation. By sealing his tomb, I freed myself from the ghost of his obsession. And the question that remains, the one I bring to you, is, what are the treasures we ourselves hunt that end up imprisoning us? The pursuit of money, power, recognition, a past that won't come back. Aren't these the true guardians that keep us chained in dark chambers? And what does it take for us to have the courage to simply abandon the gold and walk away? Leave your reflections in the comments. This was the hardest journey for me, and knowing your opinion is the final stage of it. If you followed this two-part series to the end, I deeply thank you. Subscribe to the Enigma channel and hit the bell, because the search for truth, both external and internal, never ends. Now that my family mystery has been solved, it's time to look back at the enigmas of the world. And there's already one waiting. A series of inexplicable wildfires, which always start at midnight, and whose flames, firefighters say, don't burn. They freeze. Thanks for being with me. Until next time.